Pratyekam yuddham prathamam manasi tatah bhumo vijayate. It means every war is won in the mind first and then on the ground. You may have heard during the Second World War, 8,000 tanks belonging to Hitler's army and Russians fought against each other in the Battle of Kursk. The Russians finally defeated Hitler's army. Russians since then have been famous for their reliance on tanks, but the recent news from Vuhledar says otherwise. Ukraine claims that 130 Russian battle tanks have been destroyed in Vuhledar. The numbers may sound exaggerated, but we must tell you that the war has been raging in this area since over a year. The numbers may not be exact, but the Russians did lose a considerable number of waves of tanks in Vuhledar, as the videos show. Also, the Russian telegram channels associated with the Wagner group confirm the same. Something similar had happened in Bucha too. So what's happening in Russia-Ukraine war, and what's the truth? Welcome to Resonant News. Today we will tell you why the biggest tank battle is being fought in the Ukrainian city of Vuhledar. It's important and the strategies deployed by the Ukrainians and the Russians. Vuhledar is a small town with one of the largest coal reserves in Ukraine. In fact, the word Vuhledar means gift of coal. Presently, Ukrainians have a tactical upper hand in the greater battle for the Donbas region. This place is located on an elevated plain, which means Ukrainian soldiers can easily spot the Russian movement from far away. This is one of the few high-terrain spots in the area. Its capture would have been an important step in Russia's plan to disrupt the Ukrainian supply lines. At the same time, securing Vuhledar would give the Ukrainians a potential launching pad for all future counter-offensives down south. This place becomes critical as it is just 100 kilometers away from Bakhmut and 75 kilometers from the fallen city of Mariupol. After Russians took over Crimea in 2014, Ukrainian soldiers began digging trenches all around the city of Vuhledar, as this place is an important energy source for Ukraine. This place is a fortress now. Ukrainians have also improvised their strategies with the help of NATO. According to Ukrainians, Russian armored vehicles roll in neat lines across the fields and the forest between the Russian-occupied Pavlivka and Vuhledar. The lead tank hits a mine and explodes. The rest of the column falls into disarray. Some vehicles try to go around the wrecked lead vehicle, only themselves to run into more mines. Even retreat is dangerous as there might be mines behind the column too. A stuck column of tanks then becomes an easy target for further attacks by the tank hunting teams present on the Ukrainian sides. Mines here are a big issue. Russians have confirmed that they have been removing mines in the area to help their tanks move. But here's the problem. They clear the minefield and more mines get laid instantly by the Ukrainians. According to a tweet posted on March 16 by the British Ministry of Defense, a factor of Russia's heavy losses in Vuhledar sector has been accorded to Ukraine's successful adaptation of the remote anti-armor mine, also known as the RAM systems. RAM is a special artillery cell that scatters anti-armor mines up to a distance of 17 kilometers from the firing unit. In some instances, Ukraine has launched mine over and behind the advancing Russian units, causing disarray when the Russian vehicles attempt to withdraw. These are fired into positions using either the M109 series or the M198 or the M777 series howitzers. Other than changing their traditional mining strategy, where soldiers manually lay mines to now using rams, Ukrainians have also used HIMARS to good use. In one instance, Ukrainian commanders called in a strike by HIMARS-guided rockets against the tanks. They are usually used on stationary targets like ammunition depot or barracks, but HIMARS also proved effective against a stationary tank column. Ukrainians also have been using drones for ambush with tanks. Ukrainian tanks stop about 5 kilometers short to the ambush site, just out of the range to return fire from the Russian, and then shoot in coordination with the Ukrainian drone pilots, who call in the coordinates on a radio for targets which are not visible to the tank crew. These strategies help Ukrainians, but how are the Russians countering it? For the Russians, the terrain works against those attacking the city of Vuhledar. Another issue is that Russian forces are working in tandem with the DPR forces in Vuhledar. DPR forces lack coordination, and that ends up hurting the Russian army's movement even more. Since the war has been going on for more than a year now, and both the sides have lost many soldiers, a lot of soldiers in the front are inexperienced now. As the casualties keep mounting, the morale of the soldiers on the Russian side fighting in Vuhledar is also on a decline. So finally, the Russian forces called in for air support. The Russian defense minister had recently released dramatic footage of its forces making an advance in Vuhledar near the front line in East Ukraine's Donetsk region. The video shows Russian troops on the ground attacking Ukrainian units with air support. Vuhledar hasn't fallen yet, just like Bakhmut, where an intense fight has been going on since months. Putin visited the fallen Mariupol few days ago. The city is just 75 kilometers away from Vuhledar. This is Russia's way of rubbing into Zelensky's army. More than the tanks, the drones, and other high-tech weapons, it is the strategy of psychologically demoralizing the opponent that has been used steadily by both Russia and Ukraine.